Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome in. A lot of developments overnight. A lot of developments in the Nancy case. You better not, if you pushed me to be here, you better not take your ass back to sleep or kick it. Kick it in the ass. But no, for real, y'all, there's been a lot. Yeah. Um, I was just in some live, I don't know. I don't think it was really live. I think they were doing a loop. It was a loop. But since I was asleep, something about JRL and Dolly. But if you know them two, especially for like the last 4 years, they go back and forth. They're constantly back and forth with each other. You got the Hobbit versus the what do you call? What can you call him? Because he's done everything from pretending to be a suspect's family member to suing. Okay, sorry. Um, yeah, JLR's done a lot of stuff, so I can't really think of a good nickname for him. He is part of the Scooby Boob Troop, so is Dolly. But something supposedly like JLR was sent like 20 to 30 miles away from where he needed to be, and that Dolly was right there on spot and stumbled upon the body. I don't know. I always take what I read with a grain of salt because I don't. I mean, to each his own for being there to cover it. Great. We're JLR's everywhere. That motherfucker happens to be everywhere at any point in time. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And Dolly does it for clout. He doesn't really do it for nothing else more. He does it for his views. JLR doesn't need it for the views. JLR's views come naturally. At one point last night, Cass, wasn't it like what 40K in his live? I don't think Dolly's ever had that many in his live at one time. Good morning, Miss Patty. What do you mean? It was sad. What was sad? I wish you could come up here and tell me because I cannot stand you typing. It drives me crazy that you won't come up here and tell me. And it's sad. It really is sad because you used to come up here all the time, little cracker. Last count was 85 what? 85,000 subs. Oh, JLR getting duped. Does anybody know what the person was talking about? That Dolly stumbled upon a body and now supposedly that live is taken down. I don't know. Little Hobbit should have just stayed in Virginia where he's from. I like that he tries to be relevant, but stick to what you know, dude. Yeah, that's what I thought. 85. Yeah, he's got. I don't know how he does it though. I really don't. And then some of the things he does. Let's see. I've been dealing with JLo for 4 years. I'm allowed to use any of his streams or whatever, but he made me promise not to bash him too hard. Which I don't really bash him. I do like making fun of him. He has some funny funny shit to him, just like Dolly has some funny shit to him. But to be honest, I don't follow anything Dolly does or says. JLR, I wouldn't believe half the stuff JLR says if he wasn't there at the scene. You know what I mean? So like, if he was doing it from his home, I might, I may not believe it. I may have to do some looking up myself on that. But when he's at the scene, it's kind of hard not to believe him. And welcome in, Russell. I just realized you were from the other channel. Um, why not? 857. If JLR can't be there, he's gonna be there. They've got this alliance now. Let me go back and look at these comments. Sorry. Actually, this live was set for the other day. Shut up. Man, the babies wore me out last night, so I just was so exhausted when I got home. They, like, I walked in, and probably about 10 minutes after I got there, my brother in law was like, "Oh, just to let you know," I was like, "What did I do?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." He's like, "Just to let you know, the kids had each had a large slushie, not a small one, but a large. And um, oh, and then they attacked their Valentine candy." I was like, "Are you fucking serious? All before dinner? Are you fucking serious?" So, needless to say, I had fun with the nieces last night. Welcome in, dear. Miss Patty, I did put the link out, baby doll, if you want to come up. It might be too early for you, but what dude? The 857 guy? He's a local there. He said he started that channel um purposely because of the crime in Tucson. That's what he started that channel for. Okay. Damn it, I was about to start screaming. I don't know. Can you hear me? I don't know if my mic is working. Yeah, I figured. I don't know why. I mean, I got my reservations, but that, I'm not going to say nothing. But JLR does everything by himself, so I think JLR is a little bit smarter than what people take him to be for. as my husband comes out making noise. We're used to that by now. And I guess the dog got into something because he's like, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" So I guess the puppy got into some shit. So since I've been up, I put a whole bunch of stuff in the playlist from last night that I missed. So it's anywhere from like 2 hours ago to, well, no, let me rephrase this. It's probably about between 4 and an hour ago, 4 hours and 2 hours ago. Did JLR not being at the spot have to do with Dolly, or did it have to do with the other dude? I don't know why I'm getting involved in this shit. What you looking at me like that for, a little girl? I didn't do nothing. My evil woes. Mommy's evil woes. So how are you gonna tell me some shit and then say not quite sure? Make that make sense. Okay, so let's see what I got over here. Um, and of course, not one thing I have is JLR or 857 or Dolly. So, okay, so that is. I like really getting with Brian Etten. Um, he seems to really know.
But I think that will become clear very.
Get more. He has more inside details than most of them, or inside, not details, but people he knows. So
we got in and we maintained. The neighborhood is still all closed down. It's raining out here. It's the first time it's rained since I've been in Tucson for almost 2 weeks. So I'm going to walk you through everything that happened tonight, the latest developments. Is this possibly a break in the case? Everything that I saw. I'm getting into all of it, the latest on the Nancy Guthrie investigation in this episode of Brian Ensign Investigates. Hey guys, it has just been an insane 4 or 5 hours in Tucson. There have been so many developments, not only tonight, which right now, if you're watching this, I don't know when you're watching this, it's Friday night. That isn't even, it's so late. It's actually after midnight now when I'm recording this. But the whole day was full of developments in the Nancy Guthrie case, which I'm going to get to in all of them. Let me start with really the breaking news, though. There was a SWAT raid, which I was actually at, which I'll get into the details of in a second. But we know that it is connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. They went into a neighborhood about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house in Tucson, and they detained a man and a woman from the house, and they also detained a man from a traffic stop at a Culver's restaurant very close to that house. And I'm told that it's all connected. I'm told that it could be a mother and son who were detained in the house and maybe the brother at the traffic stop, but they're all connected. And the reason I know this is because I'm told by sources that they were waiting to move on the house until the traffic stop happened. And that this is all connected back to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, whether these are just people that they are looking into, whether one of them is someone that they're specifically looking to and they just detained them all for the time being while they question them, I don't know. But 3 people are detained according to my sources, at least as of when I am making this video. So let me back up a little bit. I knew that something was about to go down this afternoon. The search plane was up, which I was told was doing surveillance, and then I found out that the SWAT teams, the Pima County SWAT teams, were going to be staging, preparing for a possible operation tonight. And they've done that before, and nothing has really transpired, but the sense was tonight something was actually going to happen. So I ended up going out to the two locations where I found out that they were staging. They moved from one location to another one very close to the target's house, which again was only 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house. They moved in on the house in the neighborhood. It was two big, like Bearcat SWAT trucks. I would say maybe 24 deputies. Everyone was just a lot of armor. I mean, it was very, very serious. And I was told they were prepared for, for the worst, really, prepared to have to go in with force. What happened, though, is luckily they didn't have to use any force. When they got to the house, and I was right there, I got into the police perimeter. I don't know how. I think just because me and Mo, you guys know how I am by now. Like, we were right there. We had good sources that led us right there. So we got in there before they put the police perimeter up, and we could tell that they didn't have to use force. The man and the woman surrendered outside of the house, and there was no issue there from what I could tell. And from what my sources are telling me. And at the same exact time, they were able to get a man from the traffic stop who is also connected to the same situation. Again, whether any of this pans out and they are officially, deemed to be part of this Nancy Guthrie investigation, I don't know yet at this point. But I know that this whole operation is connected to the Nancy Guthrie case. So they pulled them out of the house. Or they came out of the house on their own, I shouldn't say pulled out, and now I know that they are conducting a search warrant at the house, which could take quite some time. Initially, it was mostly Pima County deputies, then a cavalry of FBI agents showed up, and I mean like a ton of FBI and evidence response unit. They all came into the neighborhood and showed up, and I was told that they were going to be there like all night long doing evidence collection. So it's a pretty big development. Hopefully it's going to lead to some major progress in the case. Hopefully it's not a similar situation to what we saw a couple nights ago in Rio Rico near the Mexico border. Remember, that was when kind of a similar situation. They went out, detained someone, did a search warrant, and it turns out it seems that had absolutely nothing to do with the case, and they ended up letting the guy go, the guy named Carlos. Remember, I interviewed his mother-in-law a couple nights ago. This did feel, at first it felt similar, but as more and more FBI showed up, it was a bigger scene out here tonight. It felt more significant. That was just the feeling on the ground. So we'll see how this plays out. But it was a wild Friday night. Again, just for me, kind of just going from one SWAT staging location to another and then ending up in the middle of all this action in this neighborhood and being on the inside of the perimeter. And Mo and I just tried to stay kind of out of the way, and no one really noticed us at first because we were just sitting in our dark car. If you were watching News Nation, I was doing live shots from the dark car, and then eventually one of the deputies saw us and was like, "You guys got to get out of here." But we were very careful in the beginning not to give the location, not to give the address. I was trying to just report very limited information because I didn't want to interfere with their operation when there were still so many moving parts. And then, of course, when everyone was officially detained, we were able to report more. So that's kind of the latest on the SWAT situation with the house and what happened with them detaining the person from the car, which again all appears to be connected. I'm told that the car was detained somewhere near Culver's fast food restaurant. So we're going to see how that plays out. My suspicion is they're going to probably get DNA from whoever they were interested in, interested in talking to, interested who they thought may be connected to the case. And now that we know that they have DNA from Nancy Guthrie's house, they can pretty quickly, with the FBI's help, try to match the DNA there and see if this person is involved. Okay, DNA. On the DNA front, big development today. Okay, I would say this is probably the second biggest development since the surveillance photos came out. And that is that the sheriff's office is saying that inside Nancy Guthrie's house, they located DNA that does not belong to Nancy Guthrie and does not belong to anyone associated with Nancy Guthrie, okay? So a stranger's DNA located in the house. And remember, we know that they've taken DNA from Nancy Guthrie's family members, and we know that they've taken DNA from people who came in and out of the house, like landscapers, pool people, Uber drivers, that kind of thing. So they apparently ruled those people out in terms of whose DNA this is that they found in the house, and there is someone else's DNA in the house. That is a
very, 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 very strong feelings and feel some type of fucking way about the house being open to where delivery drivers can go up there and drop off packages. Then you had a pizza man go up there and try to deliver a pizza. You got the pool man going and cleaning the pool. Why the fuck is the pool being cleaned? Is that absolutely necessary right now? I don't think so. So let me see by ones and twos. One, do you feel like they should have had this place roped off to where absolutely nobody but law enforcement can get up there? Or did they do it right by opening it up the way they did? Let me ask you guys this. With everything that you feel, do you feel like Nancy is still alive and with us and just, you know, maybe they were able to get her some type of medicine? Or, hate even mentioning this, do you think that she may not be with us here anymore? Put a 1 if she is, and 2 if she's not. Let's see what you guys think. I don't know. So, we have conflicting stories because we have certain outlets telling us that the sheriff is not sharing things with the FBI. And then we get stories even from the sheriff saying, no, they're working great with the FBI. I don't know. But I believe that, yeah, hers and Annie's house should have been quartered off to where nobody could get into them. Besides the family. Well, no, the family don't even need to be at Nancy's house. And I think the family is all over at Annie's except for Savannah. I think she went back to New York. If I'm not mistaken, I think my husband said that he seen her on the Today Show yesterday. And it's something to do with the law. I don't feel like they allowed it. If not, I don't know. Because my understanding is that they did have it closed off for like 2 days and then they released it. But now you're finding all this evidence after people have been in and out. I have no idea. I would like to believe that too, Miss Patty. I really would. Well, they said that her not taking her medicine could be fatal. My God, people, stop hitting my messenger. But tell these idiots I'm live. Hold on 1 second. Maybe let's stop doing this. Hold on. I'll be right. I'm coming. I promise. I should be at work right now, but I'm so into this damn case. I decided not to go today. Thank God I don't have a schedule to where I have to go if I don't want to. All right, y'all. I was just doing that. Okay. Stop it. Cracker Jack. Oh shit. Eva. Come on, you fucking dork. It is not letting me pin this. Oh. Okay, I did what I wanted to do. I had to. Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm back. Let me get up here where I left off at.
Big deal, okay? Because that DNA could belong to the kidnapper. And they can now use that when things like what happened tonight happen. They can try to get a DNA match. The other thing they can do with that, and think back to Brian Kohberger and the Idaho investigation, is they can look into ancestry DNA, which we learned a lot about genetic genealogy. We learned a lot about this with Kohberger, and they could use it in this case. And that means that even if they can't figure out who the person's DNA is that was in Nancy's house and it doesn't come back to a specific database, they can go to 23andMe and all of these genealogy companies that people sign up for to find out their background, which is what happened with Kohberger, and they can try to find matches there with extended relatives of whoever that person is. So they could maybe find a third or fourth cousin, and then they can try to whittle it down from there. And we've seen it happen before. It's a new kind of technology, but we learned all about it with the Idaho case, and it could come into play here. So it is a big deal that they found DNA in Nancy's house that does not belong to Nancy or anyone associated with her, according to the sheriff's office, and we're gonna have to keep a really close eye on that, okay? That was another big thing that came out today. Something else, the sheriff is now talking. He's doing interviews again. He did an interview with News Nation. He did some other interviews today. And he is saying that this whole narrative, and I shouldn't even say narrative, I mean reporting. I have reporting from FBI sources that there has been disagreements between the sheriff's office and the FBI. The sheriff is saying that that's just flat out wrong. Granted, we've been hearing different things on the ground. I've been hearing that for days, really for a week, that the sheriff hasn't been sharing information with the FBI. As recently as a couple nights ago, they weren't sharing critical information. There was the reporting that they were withholding critical evidence, that the sheriff wanted to send all the evidence to a private lab in Florida to have everything tested, and didn't want to send some of it to Quantico, the FBI lab. The sheriff has responded and said, look, we wanted to send it to our lab that we contract with in Florida because that's who we're used to using, and because we started sending the evidence there in the beginning, it makes sense to us to continue sending all of the evidence there. That was his response when he started doing interviews and talked to News Nation today. But he is saying flat out that he called the FBI the Monday after Nancy Guthrie went missing, and he says none of this is true, that there are disagreements between him and the FBI. Again, I've been hearing differently on the ground here. But the sheriff is saying that it's just not the case. And he's also saying something else interesting. There was reporting yesterday that a glove was found in Nancy Guthrie's house, and the sheriff is saying that's just not true, that they did not find a glove in the house. But they have found multiple gloves, outside the house, not necessarily in the property, but, we showed you the black glove that was found along the major roadway. And apparently there are other gloves that have been found that are now being tested. So some sort of people are calling it a turf war in Tucson between the FBI and the sheriff, but we're hearing two different stories here. Also, President Trump spoke out today about this situation, saying that I think the quote was that the sheriff doesn't want to give up the case. That's why the FBI is still not in charge. Listen to what President Trump said.
Are you President? Why hasn't the FBI taken over the Nancy Guthrie case as the lead investigator? Do you have any updates on how that's going?
Well, they took it over originally. It was a local case originally, and they didn't want to let go of it, which is fine. It's up to them. It's really up to the community. But ultimately, when the FBI got involved, I think, progress has been made. Complicated.
It's interesting to hear President Trump say that outside the White House. And again, these are things that I've heard. There have been concerns about the sheriff's handling of the case. And even he admitted, maybe they made a mistake opening up the crime scene so quickly. Remember, it was just a couple of days later they opened it up. We were able to get the blood. I spoke to the former Under-Sheriff Rick Castigar. I've spoken to him before. He was with the sheriff's office for 40 years. He worked with the sheriff for a long time. He's not happy with the sheriff now and the way that the investigation has been handled. And I wanted to play for you what Rick told me. First of all, what is your reaction to this new reporting that the sheriff withheld critical evidence from the FBI?
I have a one-word answer. That's outrageous. And it's outrageous for a number of reasons. The FBI is the entity that certifies those for-profit organizations of which the Sheriff's Department here has a contract with to analyze trace evidence, DNA, hair, anything. And to, in my opinion, to not include the FBI in that analysis is absolutely outrageous. But it's rooted in this sheriff's disdain for the FBI. And it's rooted in, back when I was a member of the organization and working, a investigation that erupted. The sheriff was not the focus of the investigation, but he was promised by the FBI that they would keep him apprised of the progress of the investigation of some of his subordinates. They didn't. And simply put, that angered him considerably. I think I can understand that, but that particular grudge was with individual personalities that worked for the FBI at the time, not the partners we have today. And whatever evidence was gained over the course of several 2 weeks needed to be processed, all of it, in my opinion, by the FBI, and with their talent, and with their expertise, and with their capabilities. The Sheriff's Department doesn't have that. Classic example, and maybe I spoke to this earlier. That video that we saw in Nancy's immediate front entrance. I know that the sheriff's department kind of dismissed any opportunity to resurrect that video. But once the FBI got involved, unbeknownst to local law enforcement, it was resurrectable. And it was, now we all have, although he's masked up, we have a clear image of somebody at Nancy's front door in the time and date in question. The sheriff's department didn't know it was possible, but the FBI did. And that speaks to the technology that the FBI and the expertise that the FBI has. And local authorities, I don't recall too many times, even in my 40-plus year history, where we had a big case that wasn't turned over to and asked for specific help of the FBI. They have the capability.
Just go back for a second, and not in too much detail, but what is, you mentioned that there was this investigation that the FBI did into some of the sheriff's subordinates. What was that about?
Well, it was about an individual who was taking RICO dollars, which is the racketeering funds that are seized by law enforcement, and he was putting it where he could access it to pay for projects for the department. It was not put in anybody's pockets, and I cannot underscore that enough. People are going to immediately assume somebody was stealing money for their own benefit. That's not the case. And as I mentioned, the sheriff was not suspect in that case at all, but some of his subordinates were. Technically, by the RICO laws, if you launder money by taking it from one source and putting it in another, it is a violation of that law.
But he was not happy with the FBI during that time.
No, he wasn't happy.
And you were on the inside then?
Of course.
You were the undersheriff?
I was one of his senior administrators.
Okay. And
So-
and did he say that he didn't like the FBI? I mean, what would he say?
Yes, on many occasions. To several of us, we would meet daily and discuss the issues, and he was very upset. And that's because they just didn't keep him apprised of the progress. They kept it close to the chest. He was uncertain whether he was suspect. All of these things. Well, when you're the boss of 2,000 people and some of your subordinates are being investigated for a crime, and technically it is, he wanted to be made aware, and they didn't follow through with keeping him aware. I believe that is the foundation for his disdain of the FBI. But as I just said,
Why do you think the evidence to Florida private lab instead of taking the FBI reportedly up on their offer to send it to Quantico?
territoriality. This is his county, and his ego's in charge. And that's the way I see it. And the reason he has not offered them this evidence makes no sense. And I have heard a number of people who are local as well as national speak the same thing. It makes no sense. And I'm going to say that word again. It's outrageous behavior, perhaps just to make a point, perhaps just to say this is my area and I'm going to deal with it my way. And it's unfortunate because it compromises the investigation. It provides further delays in getting critical information that needs to be put out there.
He is now saying that none of this reporting is true, that he has worked with the FBI, that he called them on Monday, you know, the Monday right after Nancy went missing, and he's saying that he's been working in collaboration with the FBI and that they were aware that it made sense to send everything to Florida because some stuff had already been there and it all should just go there. And he's saying that this is all incorrect reporting.
I'd like to hear the FBI say that, because my sources, and again, I'm on the outside, and part of what I'm saying is conjecture, but it's experienced conjecture because I know the personalities and I know the history. And I haven't heard any official with the FBI say, that's okay, we knew about this. Let's delay the process longer and have a contract entity do the evidence instead of us doing it back in Quantico.
Have you seen the sheriff not tell the truth before?
I wouldn't say not tell the truth. I think he's a good-willed, honest man, but he has the need to do things his way. He can be very vindictive, and he holds a grudge. And I believe that might be the real impetus for his decision to send it to Florida, send the evidence to Florida.
Let me talk to you a little bit about just the investigation in general. You know, obviously they released those surveillance photos from the front door. Do you think they're making progress? What's your sense? Do you think we're getting any closer?
Yes, absolutely. And the screws are tightening on this guy's thumb. The perpetrator, the criminal, the guy who was there at the time at Nancy's front door, knows that video is out, knows he's got exposure. And I think he's taking steps to try and deal with this the best way possible. I only hope and pray that Nancy's still with us. And I only hope and pray this kind of pressure against this bad guy will cause him to take her somewhere, leave her, and then try to hide out somewhere else.
When I was out at Rio Rico, you know, they detained that man Carlos to question him, and then he was let go just hours later.
Right.
Are you hearing anything about was that a mistake?
Well, I wouldn't call it a mistake. I think they had valuable information that was credible, and they pursued it. And what transpired was they were able to determine through investigative processes this individual, there was not enough information to arrest him. But I'm certain the investigators got enough detail where they can go back and interact with this person, talk to him, interview him, get more detail as perhaps more evidence becomes available, and pursue it further if they have to.
Have you heard anything about, because we heard that there may have been some issues between the FBI and the Sheriff's Office with that specific event?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. In terms of this, there's more ring video that's coming out. The Sheriff's Office says that they want any video within a 2-mile radius, going all the way back to January 1st. First of all, let me ask you, what do you think that means? That they're going well before Nancy was missing all the way back to January 1st?
Well, that tells me that they have some reason to believe that somebody or some vehicle was in the area prior to Nancy's abduction. And they want specific video so that they can look at that as evidence. That's clear to me. So we shall see how that turns out. I think as we're standing here speaking, there's another video that's coming out and may be released very shortly. And that's very, very telling. And I don't know if your viewers have seen it, but when I looked at it, I went, oh my gosh, that matches somewhat the description of who we're looking for. How it's related to this case, I don't know. But I think that will become clear very quickly, and the person is identifiable, and that will become clear who that person is.
Do you think, though, that whoever did this to Nancy was just prowling around, trying other places? Because, you know, not everyone, but a lot of the experts I've talked to feel like this was a targeted event against Nancy, maybe because of Savannah Guthrie, maybe because of some other connection. Like, is it really going to be someone who's just been trying to get into other houses around town?
I don't think it's that. I think it is a targeted event. I think this person intended to do what he did the night that he did it. You know, some of the requests for other videos and dates prior suggest this guy might have been surveilling that part of her neighborhood. But why would you enter if this was just a burglary, go inside, encounter her, obviously, and then not just leave her there? Why would he be afraid of being identified? He was so masked up, none of us could really, you could get a mustache out of it and get some eyebrows out of it, but not much. And it's highly unlikely that Nancy would have been able to identify this person. And why
Nancy's porch. In my opinion, it looks like he has black marker, black eyeliner, something like that, colored around the mouth part. Like it was drawn in there. Like I don't believe that was a real at all. Now it might have been real under it, but it looked like it was colored on. And it looked like the dude was wearing eyeliner. I think that's why people think that it might have been a woman, because I'm telling you, that dude had eyeliner on his eyes. Now, I don't know why, because he had the mask on, but hey, to each his own.
Take her, unless that was your original intent.
Last time I spoke to you earlier in the week, and this was before the new surveillance video, the images came out from her front door, you said that you believed, your gut told you that Nancy was still alive. How do you feel now?
My gut still says she's alive, but as we go by more and more time and there's no evidence of life with Nancy, it becomes more and more concerning and heavy in this case. And time is of the essence in this regard. One possible scenario is, and it's horrific to think this way, but perhaps he took her and she succumbed because of age and lack of medicine. We don't know that. And now he's got a problem.
That the intent wasn't to kill her, but that she passed away.
I think this was still a kidnapping, and I think his motive was money. That's my opinion.
One thing I keep getting asked is, like, what do people in Tucson think? How are people feeling? What's the mood on the ground? I mean, you've lived here pretty much your whole adult life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know a lot of people. I mean, what is the mood? How would you describe it?
Actually, the mood is supportive of the Guthrie family. And as I've mentioned to you, this is a hometown gal who did well, Savannah. And so there's a huge outpouring of support for her. But just the same, a lot of folks are taking a step back and watching the antics and the interaction between the local law enforcement agency, who has had a proud tradition of being progressive and professional, fight with their federal partners. And it's nothing but territoriality and somebody holding a grudge, in my opinion. And the public sees it. And the public is, in my opinion, seeing what I hear from my associates still there. They're demanding that this be resolved. And the guy who can resolve it is the sheriff of Pima County, if he chooses to.
Why do you think we haven't seen the sheriff? Because he was doing so many interviews initially, and every day I'm waiting to see if there's going to be a press briefing. And
I honestly don't know. I can only guess. I would say something off the record.
Do you think it's because the FBI told him to just quiet down? Or would he even care if they said that?
I think he's gotten some heat for insisting on being in the limelight. Here's an example. Why would an administrator of a large police department get involved in deciding where a bit of evidence was taken? Why? Because the sheriff of this county is a micromanager and insists on being involved in everything. And he wants to make the decision. Most of his staff have the ability, but not the autonomy, to decide where those gloves should be analyzed. And if I were still there, and if I were given the authority, which I'm sure he wouldn't allow that, I would have given it to the FBI immediately. But that's not what has happened. And there are perhaps political and personal reasons for it.
As always, I really appreciate Rick and everyone I met here for speaking with me. There's obviously a lot of moving parts right now in terms of developments of the case, and I think the time will come where people will look back and try to figure out whether this investigation was in fact not handled properly. Something else I wanted to show you guys, because so many of you have asked me, like, what is it like around Nancy's house? I always get questions about the neighborhood and about the, sort of just the lay of the land there. So I wanted to make a video to show you guys what it is, what it's actually like around Nancy's house, what the foliage is like, what the, just sort of like what the whole setup is. Take a look at this. So I'm in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood right now, and I wanted to give you guys a look at kind of the bigger picture of what it looks like in Nancy's neighborhood. First of all, look at this. This is the road that Nancy lives on, and we're still, about a block away, and you can see just how much media there is out here. I mean, they basically line the entire street, all sorts of different networks, people from really all over the world. Some of the live shots I've heard reporters doing are like in different languages. It's raining today, by the way, which is unusual, obviously, here in the desert. I've been here almost 2 weeks and it hasn't rained one day, but it started raining today. Which is interesting for the investigation. I mean, if there were tire tracks or anything they were looking at, that could be an issue, although it's already been 2 weeks, so they've probably already, you know, hopefully looked for those kinds of things. This is Nancy's house right here. You can see that there is a Pima County Sheriff's deputy out front. Initially, they just had the house totally unsecured with no deputies around, but they have since kept the deputy here around the clock, just kind of keeping an eye on things, making sure that no one walks onto the property. Today there was everybody was kind of excited about this. There was a pool cleaner that came, a pool service guy that came, and they actually let that person go back into the back of the house. This is our News Nation setup right here. That's Mo, our cameraman. Hey Mo. He's waving. He's, I think, grumpy because of the rain, and it's been a long couple of weeks, as you can imagine. But I want to show you up here. Look, this is the area next to Nancy's house. And you can see like how dense the vegetation is. There's cactuses, there's bushes, there's rocks. And when you go back a little bit off the road, which I did the other day and was kind of walking through the desert, you can see how hard it is to see the road because of all the vegetation. So even if like a house like this is Nancy's neighbor, even if a house like this had a camera, it would be very difficult to actually see what was happening out on the road. Not to mention, at night, it's like pitch black around here. They have an ordinance here that you're not allowed to have lights on at night because of all the stargazers. So it's really, really dark here at night. You can see more media parked this way. I mean, we've kind of taken over the neighborhood, which mostly nice. We kind of see the same ones every day out walking their dogs. So we've become friends with a lot of the neighbors. A few have been annoyed, which I understand. It's like they have a hard through, but I think the media for the most part has been pretty rich for the road, making sure we take all trash at the end of the day. I know that sounds weird, but you know, you can imagine if it was your neighborhood. So up here you can see the mountains in the distance, and again, just like you look to the side here, I mean, look how dense. People think this is like a normal neighborhood when you watch it on the news, but each house is on 1 to 4 acres. And there's a ton of vegetation, and there's a lot of space in between the houses, and you can actually, like this guy, if he was trying to get to Nancy's house without walking along the road, you could easily do that, just kind of walking through the desert, walking through these yards, and no one would see you. And again, even if you walked in the road, especially at night, there's no cameras that I've seen that are really right out on the road here in the neighborhood. A lot of really beautiful houses here, by the way. It's confusing though. It's twisty and turny in here. There's only a couple of ways to get back to the main road, and there's all sorts of cul-de-sacs. And even being here almost 2 weeks, I literally have to use my GPS every single day when I leave because, first of all, it's so dark, and I still can't really figure out. I still get lost in this neighborhood. So kind of goes back to like the whole thought of, did this person know the neighborhood? Did they plan ahead how to get in and out? You know, my thought is probably yes, based on just how confusing the neighborhood can be to get in and out of. Some construction happening here. There's a lot of construction in the neighborhood, I've noticed. A lot of landscapers, a lot of people doing work on houses, which goes back to, remember those black gloves that were found along the road, not far from here. I think it was about 1.5 miles from here. You know, a lot of these people doing work in the neighborhood use gloves like that. That's what some of the construction crews have told me. So, you know, I'm not sure that those gloves are actually going to connect back to the case, but we know that they were bagged and sent away for testing. And there's apparently, the sheriff is now saying there are other gloves that have also been found. So here's another intersection here. We're right up the way from Nancy's. And I can't, like, again, I can't even remember. It all sort of starts to look the same out here. Yeah, I wanted to give you guys a lay of the land. and kind of show you what the neighborhood is actually like, and just how spread out the houses are, and again, just how much vegetation is out here. Hopefully that gives you guys some perspective of what the neighborhood is like. Again, there's just been so many updates over the last 12 hours. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm waiting to learn more about what happened with these 3 people who were detained, about what happened at the traffic stop. There's also a car that they've been searching out there. So as soon as I get more information, I'll bring it to you. Really appreciate you guys for watching and checking out the channel and all your support, and I'll talk to you guys later. Hey guys, so the latest with the Nancy Guthrie investigation, I'm outside this neighborhood right now that's all been closed off. This is where we know that the SWAT team was, or they still are. There's about 24 sheriff's deputies in there. We were actually inside the perimeter because we got in there right when the SWAT team got here. They've now moved us out, but I'm hearing from sources and a woman were taken out of the house, that this is connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, and that around the same time there was a traffic stop close by where another person was detained. Whether all of these people are being questioned as part of the Nancy Guthrie investigation, or whether just one of them is being questioned, I don't know at this time. But there's a ton of FBI that also arrived here. You had the Pima County SWAT team and a ton of deputies that were here initially in FBI, and then a whole just cavalry of more FBI agents just arrived. It's about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house, which is interesting, so it's not very far at all. And we're waiting to get more information from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, but that's the latest.
All right. So, yeah, I'm really interested in who the 3 people are. Get back up to my comments. Where the hell? I'm trying to. I just realized you were white myself. Shush. It's because I have your other channel modded. You have an Apple? Are you on an Apple device? I don't know how to go about with an Apple device. I can't remember, at least. Can't you just copy the link and put it in your Google search bar? If you have Google. No, she's purple with pink polka dots. I agree 100%. They need to come out with something today. Okay, yeah, you have an iPhone. I'm not sure. The only thing I can tell you to do is copy the link and paste it in your Google browser. I don't usually use Restream. I was already on this, so I just went with it. I had to switch it over because I was doing something for Munch last night in his Restream. But anybody else is welcome to come up. If you want to come up, Ro, you can come up and I can explain the case to you. So I know Cassie ain't gonna come up. She's too much chicken shit anymore. And whoever else, as long as you are respectful and don't do no stupid shit, you're more than welcome to come up and discuss this case with us. Trying to find. Did I have any Megans on here? Okay. Is there anybody in this chat right now that does not like Michelle After Dark or Michelle Walks? Because I do have 2 of her videos from this morning. That's normally my morning routine, is to watch her and browse.
And a Fox News alert, we are monitoring a possible major breakthrough in the Nancy Guthrie case. A massive search is underway in Tucson with swarms of police spotted at the home 2 miles from missing 84-year-old's residence overnight.
A law enforcement source tells Fox News Digital that at least 3 people are detained as part of the investigation into Nancy's disappearance. We believe it is 2 men and 1 woman.
And in another late-night incident, we're watching a 4th person detained outside a Culver's fast food restaurant located 2 miles from Nancy's home. But officials have not confirmed if this is connected to the Guthrie investigation. We also saw officers towing the man's silver or gray Range Rover, setting a tarp up. You can see here as they appear to remove items from the back of the vehicle. It's also unknown at this time if any of the 4 suspects are indeed part of this investigation.
Our teams have been on the ground all night as SWAT and police vehicles throughout the area in Tucson.
And just hours ago, the sheriff revealing to Fox News that they're testing DNA that was found inside of Nancy's home that doesn't belong to Nancy.
These developments come just 3 days after the release of crucial doorbell camera images, giving us the first look at her potential abductor.
All of this comes as it has been now 2 full weeks since Nancy Guthrie was last seen. So let's bring in Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, police officer. She was on the ground at the sheriff's office when police vehicles were coming and going, first leaving last night, and now we have these situations. What is the latest that you can tell us from there?
Well, we have at least 3 people who are being detained. We're hearing about a 4th, but understand they're detained. They're not arrested. So this is what we would call an investigatory detention. And here in Arizona, you have 24 hours from the time that you detain someone, whether you either have to charge them or you have to let them go. So we've got the scene at the Guthrie, 2 miles from the Guthrie home. Then, of course, we have the traffic stop with the Range Rover, which was towed on a flatbed truck after being partially covered with a tarp. Again, we haven't been told if that's related, but we're presuming that it is because the same personnel were involved in that. So this is it's a very active investigation still ongoing here in Pima County.
So, Sergeant, do you have any indication of who these people might be that were detained? They're obviously in a house, I guess, a few miles away from the Guthrie house. I would imagine there are neighbors, people in the area who might know who these people are. Are you getting word of anything regarding the people that are the owners or the residents of this home?
This home was literally less than 2 miles, really a mile as the crow flies from the Guthrie home. It's in a very upscale area of Pima County, also in the Catalina foothills. We've heard a lot about that. But who these people are, other than 2 males and a female and potentially another male, that information is not being released. And we want to be very respectful. I know it's frustrating for everyone. Why haven't they had a press conference? Why aren't they releasing more information? The investigation is so active, and plus we have a family, the Guthrie family in Tucson, that is having to deal with this on that very guttural, familial level.
Sergeant, but to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that the investigators or the sheriff have, whether they have released information. I was just saying from the ground, like people that we are talking to, have any neighbors come forward to say, oh, I know the people who live there, or I've seen them before?
We really haven't had anybody yet come forward.
Got it.
Yeah, and so, Sergeant, you're so right about, we only know what we know. And in cases like this, every single time that we cover them, early reports and rumors often are false. So let's drill into just sort of what we've seen transpire overnight. Obviously, there are the two scenes, authorities telling us that when they went in and detained the three individuals at that home, that was tied to the Guthrie investigation. Now, we also had video of SWAT vehicles as part of the surge when they went initially into that. What does that tell you to see SWAT vehicles responding in that?
Well, and I was down at the sheriff's department, most of the night when these officers deployed. And one of the notable things was when SWAT was deploying, everyone else in the agency was being called in. So we saw multiple units deploying, not just for SWAT to go out, but also, this is a county of almost 2 million people. So they had to bring in additional personnel. We also saw some of our neighboring agencies, Marana, Oro Valley, Saurita, come in on a mutual aid aspect. But when SWAT goes out, and the bomb squad went out too, but then they came back. When SWAT goes out, it's because they feel that it's going to be a potentially very dangerous situation. And remember, we've got a suspect who was armed, and we have a potential hostage situation. So it was with the utmost caution that SWAT went out.
So with those three people that were detained, and I realize that we have very limited information right now, but we don't even know if those people actually live in that house, or do we?
We do not know that. We've got, names on, property tax names, things like that. But none of that has been released. And again, we don't know if they're suspects.
Right.
When you go in and you serve this kind of search warrant and take people, you detain them, you've got to get them out of there and then sort everything out. And of course, we saw a swarm of FBI agents, of forensic vehicles, as when those people were removed, all that moved in.
All right, Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, thank you for your insight. We'll check in with you throughout the day.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Everything I have is going to be the same shit because it was from last night to overnight. So it's probably going to be basically the same thing. Some might have a little bit more detail, some may not. You just never know. Good morning, Rapper. What about your laptop? Would that work? But as far as the press conference, there was supposed to be one last night. They canceled it and said that it was just going to be their media person coming out and speaking. And then that never happened. And now they're saying so far that no. Hush! No. They're not going to do one. Sorry, my dog is barking. My husband's on his way back up the hill from walking my other dog. But they're saying no. As of right now, no. There's no press conference. I hate technology. I think it's smarter than I am. They say it is smarter than us, Patty. Y'all, so for the new ones in here that don't know, Miss Patty is the true crime content creator that I talk about from TikTok. This is her, Mrs. Patty from the Natty. And some of you might know who Rapper is. Been around a long time. Assuming I'm talking about the right Rapper. Okay, girl. You got stuff all in your mouth, crazy. I mean, not done my daddy. Stop yelling. Answer on the Michelle Walks. Who does anybody like her or no? Where is she? I gotta save this. Oh yeah. Boy, stop it. I'm gonna knock this dog out. There is a new one that I really, really like her podcast. She's really, really good. She doesn't hold back. To be honest, she doesn't like filter herself either. Give me 1 second. I want to save this real quick. Oh, because it was a live. Oh, we can't do it over there. I can do it over here. Yeah, well, we're not going to worry about that. I don't want to do a lot. I don't want to go over her live. Her name is Megan Kelly. She's really, really good. No BS, no agenda, no fear. Available on all audio and video platforms. The Megan Kelly Show. She got a lot of different platforms, that's for sure. And she has a lot of good guests, too. That one was 12 hours ago. One was her last live. 2 days ago. This one was 12 hours ago. She has another channel. It's called MK True Crime. That's maybe where I was supposed to be looking at. $18 hours ago, and our live was... Okay, we don't want to do the live because that was not what we're doing.
Involved.
100%.
And I'll tell you what, she's had a lot of guests on here. The only guest I have not seen, not
so if it was a solo offender, would this be realistic?
The only person I have not seen her bring up on her panel for a guest is motherfucking CM, and I hope she keeps it like that. Man, I can't stand that man with a passion. All right, so let's see what this is. The title says, could multiple perpetrators be responsible for Nancy's abduction with Maureen O'Connell?
Would they be able to manage the transport, the surveillance, control, all of this stuff? Would they be able to manage it, or are you pretty confident one?
No, I'm just going on statistics.
Yeah.
It could be managed with an 84-year-old woman if you could get in the house. There are all kinds of questions about the timeline with the front door. Like, that front door is never a door I would want to try to break in, because working gangs and narcotics here in Los Angeles for many, many years, we had to come across those doors all the time. And when you're doing recon for your takedown, you look at that door and you think, oh God, because you have to rip them off the hinges practically. So that's why when he went up to the door, I don't know if he was just putting that foliage there or trying to block that camera, because it was part of the plan that was their egress route, which would make sense, because on the way out, their hands would be full.
Mm-hmm.
And that he then went around the back to break into the back door. But if we had a presser, those would be the questions I would be asking I would be asking whoever is handling the pressers from this point forward.
Well, we know that so there's the blood drops, the trail of blood drops, and they are drops. It's not like, I wouldn't call it like, arterial bleeding or anything like that. It looks like the kind of drops consistent with maybe a cut or even a nosebleed or something, but not a serious heavy flow of blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the blood drops stop when the walkways, there's a couple of steps. When you come out the door, it's a couple of, like, 2 steps, and then there's a semicircle driveway. It's gravel, rock, and dirt. It's not a paved driveway, but that's where the blood droplets stop. And I can promise you that somebody did not single-handedly carry her, whether she's alive or dead, did not carry her that far away, because you're looking at a very I think small radius, probably just a couple of 100 yards. There had to be a vehicle involved. I've always felt there was a vehicle involved.
100%.
And so it's consistent with, in my view, with someone who's got this, like a phone, even a burner phone. They put her in a car and then they leave the area. And so now law enforcement is tracking the digital crumbs, if you will, in and out of the crime scene. And I think that's why they're not really looking for a body or anything like that so close to Nancy's home, because they have a pretty good idea that she's not physically close to the home.
Yeah.
Bill, I don't think they had phones with them, or if they did, they had them either off with the SIM out or something, because I don't think, it was my impression and I was really listening for this. And I have a good friend, former colleague, who is an expert, an FBI national asset in this arena. We don't think they had a phone with him that was operable or able to ping or pinging on anything. My response to your question about the blood did in fact stop at that one spot, but did it stop because she got into a vehicle right there, or did it stop because someone put a t-shirt or paper towels or something up on the wound, whatever was bleeding?
Mm-hmm.
And to your question about one person moving a body, if you think about, you could do it with a blanket or a tarp pretty easily. Not easily, but you could do it by yourself. And when I look at that backpack was filled to the brim in a kind of a smooth fashion. For example, if you're looking at someone's backpack and you're standing behind them, like in line at anywhere, like a airport, you can see that they've got like a big clunky water bottle in there. You can almost see the outline of a whole bunch of stuff that they have in their backpacks. We don't see that at all in this case. What we see is something that looks smooth, uniform, bulky, so that could have been part of the kit that this person brought into the residence.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and you were on Megan's show and you said that it doesn't look like cartel behavior. So what's missing about cartel behavior?
Oh my God. First of all, the gunslinger, that gun in the front is just beyond. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that gun. Yeah.
Well, the cartel would get in and out. They want their money.
Yeah.
And they want this whole thing to be over pretty quickly.
It's fast,
by the way,
transactional if it's cartel, totally.
The cartel's not going to send TMZ their freaking demand note. They're going to send it to the family.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think that was I think that was someone just trying to get rich. I mean, what do you think, Maureen? This ransom note.
So too. Yeah. I'm not buying the ransom. First of all, if you throw it all up on the timeline, like you said, Phil, this is an in and out operation.
Right.
If you're in the business of kidnapping people for ransom, you're in, you grab her, you're out,
and money,
and you either leave the ransom demands right there, or you get them to them right away, because the last thing you want is an albatross or a ball and chain. And no offense at all to Nancy, obviously, but Nancy would be a person that needed a great deal of care.
Yes.
That isn't what we want. If your goal is to just get the money and run, this is not a scenario for you.
That makes perfect sense.
You take the sister.
Yeah. Right. And you said that the suspect you thought may be familiar with the property. Can you tell us about that?
Well, he looked very comfortable. His even his facial expressions were calm. His movements were calm. And if you notice, it's almost imperceptible, but when you notice him walk up to the door, and as he's about to reach for the camera, you see him almost ready to knock. And then he
does. He does look like he's going to knock. He totally does.
And then he goes to the camera. But he's not scared. He's not hurried. He's not freaking out. Normally in a situation like this, I don't care when you're about to do something like this, you're looking around. Why is he not scared?
Yeah. And you said that. You said that he looked mission oriented. He looked forensically sophisticated. I mean, that tells us that it might be someone who's familiar.
Maybe it's not his first rodeo, so to speak, and which that would be consistent with my theory and the theory that is held by a lot of others, including some neighbors that I talked to, which was in essence that there was a conspiracy of, probably like 2 or 3 people to kidnap her, get Savannah Guthrie to pay a quick ransom, but something went wrong. She was injured and they could no longer provide proof of life. So the whole thing falls apart, and particularly with the media and the scrutiny on this case that came so quickly. So it seems like it was a botched kidnapping, perhaps. The other alternative is that it was essentially a hit, but it feels to me more like an attempt at a ransom type kidnapping that just went terribly wrong.
Or was it a kidnapping at all?
Or I mean,
right.
I mean, if you're the other thing is that door. No one's gonna. The video was cut off just as he was ripping that camera off. What happened after that? I don't believe he gained access right there, because that's too difficult a door to ever break down. Now, if he had a key, that's a different situation, and now we're in a totally different universe. But the other part, to your point, both of your points actually, is the ransom. I mean, if you want the money, proof of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. You've got proof of life, you're getting money and millions of dollars, and yet they fail to do that. Why? To Ashley's point, because it's probably a hoax.
Yeah, the ransom notes, the ransom demands, I think definitely are hoax. My theory, and like I said, some others, including locals, believe that the abduction was intended to be a kidnapping for ransom, but because she died and they weren't able to provide proof of life, they abandoned that part of it and have just kind of now have gone to ground and done something with the body and that kind of thing. So I do believe that the so-called ransom notes that went to TMZ and all that, I think that's total BS. However, I still think that it's more likely that there was an intention to ransom her, if that makes sense. But Matt Murphy, our colleague here at MK True Crime, was on this show earlier this week with us, and Matt, former prosecutor out of
I know Matt,
Los Angeles. Yeah, Matt said you can't rule out this also being a sex offender. Okay, and that's that's a piece of this that we don't really want our minds to go there, but if you're the cops, you've got to consider all possibilities, and it's not unheard of that sex offenders would do this kind of thing.
I'm sure they've gone through all the sex offenders in the area and gone through all those lists as well.
Sure.
So
we
Maureen,
used to go through those lists too, Ashley. And when we had missing children, missing little boys, we would go through the sex offender registry and we would knock on all their doors and ask, and we could go in and check their houses too, because that was a part of their parole. So we went into many houses, and it was just like,
yeah. Oh, I'm sure you've gone and done all those interviews. I'm sure they've done that here. I'm curious, while we have you, about this Bitcoin activity. So I just keep thinking, it's Bitcoin. That tells me it's not sophisticated. But why is the FBI not sending some money to this Bitcoin account to try and trace it, just to see if these ransom notes are real? I mean, what do you think about that?
What that $300 was?
Yes. Well, I mean, but did they get anything from that?
I don't know. I mean, they're being closed-lipped about it, and I expect them to, and I would want them to.
So how does that work though? The $300, walk us through that. I mean, what are they looking for? What are they're trying to track it?
They're looking to see. So if you can have, Bitcoin.
Like, I'm a Bitcoin moron, so I'm just going to admit that.
I'm pretty much a Bitcoin moron. However, I do know that with a Bitcoin wallet or an account, you can sign up for alerts on for any activity on your account. And I'm sure they were just hoping that this did prompt an alert to be sent out, and maybe they could grab that, but I don't know that they have, or they can actually.
Right. Oh, wow. So
it's all very. It's like, can we here's the deal. We've gone so long with so many close calls. The odds are now in our favor that the big break is coming, and I think the big break was that video we got. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think.
The camera, the surveillance camera, and then the glove.
Well, we know the investigative activity, it really sprung to life pretty quickly after that. And I don't know if that speaks so much. I'm sure the release of the photos and the videos has a lot to do with it, but also I think what we're seeing is the FBI taking a more active role, and I would suspect they've taken it over as the lead, although I don't think that the sheriff would confirm that. But it seems like the FBI is the one driving this train right now.
Well, I think the FBI should be driving the train right now. If it's a partnership and you're working together, then let the team that has the expertise in whatever area run that area. And I think that has to be happening. But the ticket can still, or what we call who's got the ticket, whose case is it? The ticket can still belong to the sheriff, and he can still enjoy, reaping the benefits. But I think no one does kidnap, ransom, murders, any of these things, or kidnap, ransom stuff better than the FBI. Or even, if this were LAPD handling it, it would be handled very differently, because just the LAPD, the LA County Sheriff, and I'm only naming them because I worked so closely with them all these years, they'd be doing an outstanding job, and they'd be doing a great job without too much politics getting in the way. And that's what we want. No politics, all hard work, plow forward.
Find her, just to find Nancy. Yeah, definitely.
Bring her home.
So how many, did they send, your experience with the FBI? Are they just sending people, a ton of people? We heard that they have 4,000 tips. They've had some 10,000 plus phone calls. What does it look like on the ground from, for FBI agents?
Well, in the command post, you'd have a bunch of analysts, a bunch of agents, and someone overseeing the whole process. They'd be triaging all of these tips and leads coming in, and they would be shipping them out or essentially assigning them to investigators. And they're assigning them probably to sheriff's deputies, police officer, whoever is on scene and part of the task force. You're all part of one team at this point. And so they would say, hey, so, a tip maybe came in. I saw a car at this longitude and latitude, and there was a guy standing out there probably going to the bathroom, and boom, that you're going to dispatch people to that right now, and you're going to probably dispatch evidence response team members. And so that's how it's working, and it is a flurry of activity.
Like I said, this was like 12 hours ago.
We come on the air with some breaking news as we continue to follow the latest in the search for Nancy Guthrie. We do know 3 people were detained late last night. That's according to Fox News. And Fox reports the source giving this information says after receiving a tip, authorities detained 2 males plus one of their moms. The source said a warrant had been served. The source cautioned that during a warrant execution, technically everyone is detained. Meanwhile, officials with the Pima County Sheriff's Department said law enforcement activity is underway at a residence near East Orange Grove Road and North First Ave related to the Guthrie case. Because this is a joint investigation at the request of the FBI, no additional information is currently available. So that was a post there that was shared to X from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. We also do know a Pima County Sheriff's SWAT vehicle was seen leaving the active law enforcement area about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. I'm going to ask my producer to get that up here, that SWAT vehicle image that was also shared to social media. The departure comes after a long line of additional vehicles, possibly law enforcement, was ushered into the area where authorities have been operating following earlier warrant activity. Officials have not released new information about the operation or who may be involved. Now, just to quickly recap here, this comes as a press conference still not being announced from officials as of this morning. Also coming after a busy few days in this investigation where earlier this week, if you remember, video and photo surveillance footage was shared with the public, and a white tent was put up outside of the entryway to Guthrie's home and quickly taken down. But I wanted to share this here with you. This is some of the footage we're getting in from overnight there, as late last night, police activity could be seen 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home, and local police and several unmarked vehicles, including forensics and SWAT teams, could be seen gathering 2 miles from that home there in Tucson, Arizona. And Arizona Sheriff's Department says it received more than 4,000 calls 24 hours after videos of a masked person on Guthrie's porch were released. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie first reported missing on February 1st, so we are now officially at the 2-week mark here. To share more about what we know so far and what we still don't know is Bobby McDonald, former Secret Service. And thank you so much for joining us, as always, on Live Now from Fox. Bobby, we do appreciate it.
Good morning. Always great to be back with you.
A lot to discuss here, obviously. Let's start with this. Why have we not had a press conference? Pima County putting out on social media, we'll have an update for you when we feel it's appropriate to have an update. But at this point, this feels like a big development. So why are we not getting a press conference?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure that I have a good answer for you. I think that the Pima County out there has decided to kind of shut down their communications to the public with respect to the fact that their early on communications efforts really didn't go very well. And now you've got that combination of the FBI little rift, if you will, that's out there. It's a little bit troubling. Look, I'm all about keeping information close to the vest when we're in the middle of an investigation, but we're 2 weeks into this now, and we're dealing with an individual who is related to a very notoriety person in our society. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're not getting anything, but I am happy to see that a search warrant was effected last night, and hopefully that's going to be moving us in the right direction.
Yeah, and Bobby, before I continue with my questions here, I did want to put this up on the screen, as we do like to have our viewers write in and ask these questions. So if you have a question about this case, please scan that QR code in the top right-hand corner of your screen. We're going to be answering these questions live here throughout this interview with Bobby McDonald. So once again, open up the camera app on your smartphone, tap and scan that QR code, or you can head to livenowfox.com/connect. Please weigh in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Bobby, let's continue, though. So I just want to get into the technicalities of what some of these terms that we're hearing from law enforcement are. When authorities say 3 people were detained during the execution of a warrant, what does that typically mean in terms of this investigation?
So when that warrant is obtained, that we have to go through a magistrate or a judge that has to sign off on that warrant. Police have to indicate that they're looking for something specific within that house that would be related to the case that they're investigating. So when that warrant is effected at the house, those individuals are identified and are asked to hop over there into the dining room and sit down, and we'll get back to you when we find either what we're looking for or when we're finished going through your home looking for the items that we're looking for. So they are not arrested at that point, but they are being detained at that moment at that location for the actions that are going to be taken by the police department and the FBI in this case.
And as I shared here, I feel like we have slowly been getting more information after waiting for quite some time to get information to come out about this. I just had up on our screen here that surveillance video that was released earlier this week here to the public from law enforcement. My question to you, Bobby, why are there no timestamps on this surveillance video? Does that play a factor into this?
The timestamps with respect to Ring cameras or Nest cameras, these are for personal use. So their algorithms and technology, unless you're asking for it or you purchase that aspect of it, really don't have timestamps necessarily. They're more for security purposes. Obviously, this snippet is well known now to be involved in this case, and it would be great if we would have some timestamps. But a lot of the technology with the assets and tools that we use in our homes or around our businesses don't necessarily have that technology involved.
Right. And I just wanted to quickly recap for our viewers who are just tuning in here as we do await some viewer questions come in. We saw this was released here, that backpack that police put out just the other day. But I also wanted to share this here. And this was this white tent that we saw go up just a few days ago outside of the entryway to Nancy Guthrie's home. That tent was taken down a short time later. I mean, I think we're talking just maybe 2 or 3 hours at that point, because we were bringing this live to our viewers. What do you make of that? Why would a tent be going up outside of the entryway to the home where that footage was recorded and then taken down so quickly?
You know, I think when we look at this investigation, and we're 2 weeks into it now, we've got the home of Nancy Guthrie, we've got the home of the daughter and son-in-law. There just seems to have been a little bit of disjointedness in this investigation. And investigations don't always go according to script, or as we see on a 30 or 60-minute TV show, on Friday night. So they have been all over the place a little bit, and it does look a little disjointed. But obviously, there was some nugget of information, some nugget of evidence there that they wanted to obtain, or they wanted to test, or something was found in that area, and they were able to effectively decide its relevance in a short period of time.
Now, something else I wanted to ask you here. We heard from Pima County Sheriff Chris Nano says he denied claims that his department had not been cooperating with federal authorities after reports law enforcement there had withheld key evidence from the FBI. But we did see this post here from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. This was just put out a couple hours ago at this point, and you and I were chatting before this interview about this key line here that reads, because this is a joint investigation at the request of the FBI, no additional information here. Does that mean that they are now working together? What's the significance of that post?
Well, as I said yesterday, we need to have a federal nexus.
I don't know what I did. I tried to come back to Restream and everything was white. So I had to fix it. I wanted to see what News Nation has put out. There's one right here 47 minutes ago.
News Nation Tonight, the desperate search that has gripped the country. Where is Nancy Guthrie? News Nation's Brian Enton is on the ground in Arizona with special live coverage. Missing, the Nancy Guthrie mystery. Tonight, 8/7 Central on News Nation.
Okay.
TMZ has obtained a third email from the man who claims he knows the identity and the location of Nancy Guthrie.
News Nation Tonight, the desperate.
TMZ has obtained a third email from the man who claims he knows the identity.
I might have to close the player. Because it keeps going away from what I want to watch. You fucker. Okay.
News Nation Tonight, the desperate search that is.
You see what I mean? It's all white. Come on.
For more, I'd like to welcome to the show former Judge Ashley Wilcott. Welcome, Ashley. Nice to see you. Let's start with what Jessica was just reporting on there for us with this third message sent to TMZ demanding money for alleged information. Does this sound legit to you, or is this just somebody trying to exploit the FBI reward?
So first of all, thank you. Honored to be with you. Second of all, you're always going to want to treat it as legit until you prove otherwise. Law enforcement does. The reality is when they say the main individual involved, you think, well, this might be somebody that has information, that does know who's involved. The difference between this and the first two, though, is the way that it's written, the language in it. And so it does not sound like it's necessarily the same person as the first, but you have to treat it as legit. Because what if it is?
Yeah, just the anonymity with Bitcoin just raises so many alarm bells and makes you think about so many other issues with this too. Why do you believe this person would want reward money up front rather than after an arrest was made, as is typically the case?
Well, that's what makes you think maybe it's not legit. It's just somebody out for the money. That's all they want. But anybody who's sending a ransom note and saying, I can give you information about the main individual, anybody who's inclined to treat a missing person, a Nancy Guthrie as money versus a real person with compassion, anyone like that is always going to ask for the money first before they're going to give anything. It's a gig. They want the money. They don't care about Nancy Guthrie.
And Jessica, you mentioned that these first two notes, some were going to, Jessica, we can bring you back in. Amy, you stay here. But going back to the first two notes, we know that they went to local TV, went to TMZ. This person in this latest note, Jessica, saying that they are going through TMZ rather than law enforcement because they don't trust them. Also not going through the family either, which is also interesting. We heard from Savannah Guthrie in the last day or so, or not heard from her, but she posted on social media this beautiful video of her and her sister had appeared with their mom. You know, this old video, a childhood video of theirs. But Jessica, do you know how the family has been told and advised that they should be acting right now, what they need to be doing for their security, and just, you know, how much hope really is truly still there?
Yeah, so they are currently staying in a gated community. We do not know where that is. They have been hunkered down, sequestered themselves. Again, we know that they keep going back to Annie Guthrie's home, and there's been so many questions about that. Every time there's new evidence found, right, they go back to that inner circle and then start to work their way out. We know that law enforcement was over there the other day in an unmarked vehicle. They went into the home, they came out, they took some kind of paper bag. They also checked her mail. Whether they were looking for something specific or they were just assisting the family in some way, also unclear. You know, another interesting aspect to this, yesterday we saw pool cleaners here, Anna, and why is that significant? Well, the Sheriff's Department is taking even more heat for that, saying, okay, you have a crime scene essentially here. This woman is still missing. We have 24-hour surveillance, and guys are coming to clean the pool. What if there's more evidence to be found on location? Is that now going to be tainted? So, you know, this has been such a slow and long process. But in response to your question as to, you know, what is happening with the Guthrie family specifically, I would imagine at this point, they are really trying to hold on to hope, but it's you know, I would be remiss to make an assumption as to how, you know, her condition, but we have not heard anything from her. And as you mentioned before, she needs that medication, and let's just hope that she is okay.
Yeah, we're all crossing our fingers and toes for that, but time is really ticking, and we've been saying that for a long time now, it feels like. And a strange detail, Jessica, about the pool cleaners, I actually had not heard that. It seems like it doesn't matter if the pool gets some leaves in it, if it turns a little bit green right now. It seems like, yeah, it's very bizarre there. Ashley, I want to fold you back in here. We have 3 people detained following the SWAT operation last night that Jessica detailed for us. Legally, what is the process that police have to go through in order to get that search warrant for an operation like that? Because you got to imagine law enforcement is really minding their P's and Q's here to make sure they do everything properly should these people end up being arrested and charged and have a day in court.
Absolutely. So the first thing they have to do is say under oath the reasons why they believe 2 things. Number 1, a crime was committed. And number 2, evidence of that crime is located at the place where they're wanting that search warrant. They have to go to a judge who has to find probable cause. That's a very low standard. Probable cause is any evidence at all. Again, a crime committed, evidence at that location, the judge then signs the warrant, and then law enforcement can successfully execute the warrant. But keep in mind, they could only look for what's in the warrant.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.
We're going to bring in Caitlin Becker. She's the host of the New York Postcast, podcast senior correspondent as well for the New York Post. Great to see you again, Caitlin.
Hi, Anna.
So multiple messages have been reportedly sent to media outlets requesting Bitcoin in exchange for information about Nancy. We know 2 of the deadlines have passed, and the letters had gone to local TV stations and TMZ as well. This new one, the TMZ just received on Friday. I want to zero in on this one if we can. Right now, their authenticity, of course, has not been confirmed. But what is it that stands out to you about this one compared to the others?
Well, of course, it all begins with traceability and the fact that there's no traceability with a Bitcoin and the blockchain. You know, I heard before the break someone talking to Chris Cuomo about that. But what really stands out to me, and we've seen at least one of them at the New York Post, if not multiple, is the changing amounts. The changing amounts and what they're willing to exchange for it really stands out to me. Obviously, the person who is asking for the money isn't the quote unquote kidnapper or the person that's going to give up, because they're not going to be asking for this money and then give themselves up to police. So you have to question whether or not they really know their information. I mean, you see these quotes here, "I'm not being taken seriously." It really is all about this person who claims they have a lot of really important and integral information. As we've heard before, there is no proof of life. There is no willingness to kind of play ball in that way to say, okay, this is legit. I can show you this is legit. So now you can give me that Bitcoin. So they do seem to be not offering enough information up front to at least make me believe that this is serious, that this is legitimate. Now, from a law enforcement perspective, they can't play that game. They have to treat it as if it is legitimate, because if it is, they can't risk, the boy who cried wolf, and they didn't follow every single lead. But if it's not legitimate, it is wasting law enforcement resources and wasting time that this woman does not have if she is still alive out there.
That's right. Now 2 weeks. Caitlin, the New York Post was on the scene when investigators discovered this black glove that we've been talking about near Nancy's home. We've got a map we can show where that was found in relation to Nancy Guthrie's house, Annie Guthrie's house, and also the Circle K, where they've asked, investigators have asked for video. What's the latest on the glove, and also the DNA evidence that Jessica was outlining for us that has been found inside the home? If you can unpack both of those for us.
Yeah, the DNA is, I think, very crucial, but it also has me question. I mean, if you think about the amount of people who are in your house at any given time, it's not always your family member. So that is going to be kind of a long process to work through. As for this glove, we were on the scene when this glove was obtained, and it is one of a few black gloves that were obtained in this area. I mean, you're taking a look at this photo right there. It does look like it was kind of discarded or torn off. And as we know from the surveillance video, the person who was in that surveillance video looked like they were wearing a nitrile black glove like this. And we don't know if there were multiple people. So there could be the two gloves potentially on that person, or pairs of gloves on someone else who could have assisted going through another window or door in the house. So the hope is that that will link them to that person. But again, it's just such a long process. I think what they really need is a tip that is going to prove fruitful.
He knows something for sure. And, this individual that came to the door looking like the boogeyman with everything covered, if the way that he was walking and all of that, everybody's watching this on social media, on cable news, it's everywhere. So if you know something, it's time to come forward and say something. As far as
I just want to point out one thing about that. When I covered the Luigi Mangione case before we knew who he was, I covered it for this network, for News Nation. He was arrested based off of photos that showed his eyes and nothing else, and his backpack. So it is very plausible that someone will recognize him and be able to call in for an arrest. We've seen it happen before.
That's right. His so-called flirting, bushy eyebrows, as someone called Mangione's eyebrows. One more time, if we can pull that glove back up. It just all seems so bizarre, too. I mean, what is this person doing? Just willy-nilly throwing their glove out the window? Some have questioned, could it potentially even be Nancy Guthrie? Was she trying to get something out the window? There are so many different ideas of how this could have unfolded, and if it is even related to this case, Caitlin.
Yeah, that